I presume you are surrendering those documents to us, sir? I presume you are sharing those documents with us.
Yeah, I'm sharing all the documents with you.
Okay, you will kindly initial them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have my addresses in here. Everyone is in there so that they can read all of this that I've just put together.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for your presentation and your elaborate expose on the forward-looking processes that we as a commission needs to take into consideration.
Okay.
I want to thank you for your elaborate presentation, especially your concentration on the forward-looking processes you outlined that are necessary for us to achieve our job and for the people of Liberia to have genuine reconciliation. We thank you for those insights, and commissioners will ask you questions which I'm sure will border on mostly your experiences during the conflict period from 1979 to 2003. Thank you very much. Sheikh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gbala, for your presentation. I have a few questions to ask. First, you made us to understand that at a certain period, you became vice president and president of EULA. And it is my belief that before becoming vice president and president respectively, you were first a member, perhaps founding member of EULA. With all what has taken place, from the day of the formation of EULA up to 2003, if you are asked to describe the role of EULA in both pre-war and war as well as post-war era, what would be your comment?
Thank you, Sheikh. Disappointing. My answer would be disappointing. There is a document that I include in the presentation to you on EULA. I argue that individuals who become leaders of EULA must be Liberian citizens. I found here that some are not Liberians. And I believe that we cannot entrust the issues that are concerned with EULA, that are basically on the rights of Liberians in this country and the rights of Liberia in Liberia, to individuals who are non-Liberians. The second issue is, I believe that in the past, Liberians have not argued reasonably, rationally, our presentation to the American people, and that EULA was suitably positioned to do that. They are not doing that. Right now, we have the issue of DED. Liberians are subjected, as a matter of fact, quite soon, some Liberians will be deported. EULA is supposed to have taken this issue to do so. They are not doing that. I think that document is inside here. You will read it.
Thank you. You also said in your testimony that TRC was a nightmare. My question is, how long did you serve the government that you declare as a member? How long did you serve it?
Well,
And why you continue to serve it?
I served the PRC for, the PRC we came to power, well, from August 1980. I went home in August 1980, up to when we went to civilian government. And like I said, it was really a nightmare simply because Jangaba and myself discovered a lack of knowledge, a lack of the kind of situation that is required for national leadership. Of course, this is not only in Liberia. In third world countries, you find that individuals who have seized political power through what I call the accident of history. That is, they shoot their way to the presidential palace. These people usually do not come with training that are prerequisites for leadership. I find that among the PRC. But it was also an exciting experience, a laboratory for a student of political science, simply because of the age and the lack of experience. Well, I can say this to you, sir. Advisor-advisee relationship is that you advise and they implement. And in the third world countries, they only bring in highly trained personnel to advise simply as a symbol of window dressing, so that outside donors will believe that, oh, we're so and so people, we give the necessary resources that are necessary, but the leaders keep you at an arm's length. We can demonstrate that through instances. And if you look at my file that is the archives at State Capitol, you see on every issue that crossed my deck, we do an analysis and present that for action. Implementation, it's the responsibility of ministers, not the advisor. So I've been with the PRC since 1980 we went to civilian government. And of course, Tambakai and myself were instrumental in prescribing the process that brought us to civilian government. As a matter of fact, the selection of the individuals who became the commission, all these were things that we assisted in bringing it to bear. So 1980 to 1986. With the PRC.
You didn't conclude that while you serve a government that you were just a window curtain and then it was an emirate, and why you continue to serve?
We made, as a matter of fact, we spoke very candidly and in no uncertain terms on it. This is a matter of record. But we believe that it is better to continue to push for change from the inside rather than being on the outside. And in fact, things would have been worse if we were not available.
The PRC made several promises to the Liberian people. One of them was, by 1985, the country will be turned over to, quote unquote, the civilians.
Mm-hmm.
By 1983-84, that phraseology was changed to Liberia will be returned to civilian rule.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to change from turning over to civilians to a civilian rule, you said you was a co-founder of NDPL,
Oh, yes.
a institution, a leadership that you serve with frustration. How can you exonerate yourself from that dramatic change of a military man transforming itself to a civilian so that the war turning over to civilians be changed to say a civilian rule where it was said that leopard, the skin of leopard, carry the same name. Whether it is the leopard skin, whether it is the meat, leopard must go alone. Why did you take the courage to become a co-founder and then attempting to exonerate yourself from the mishaps that took place?
First of all, I do not see any fundamental difference between civilian rule. You are saying return to civilian government or a civilian rule. I don't see any difference in that. Secondly, I am not excusing myself from what I did. Not at all. I'm saying what I did and what the results were. You know, in a government or in any institutions, there are division of authority, division of labor. My responsibility was to advise. And it is the responsibility of the advisor relationship is that the advisor performs policy development, policy prescription, and policy implementation. Have those who perform those respective responsibilities. I'm not excusing myself at all. Not at all.
Thank you. You talk about this centralization in a document that you presented to a national conference in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
When did you grasp this idea? When you served the TRC government, the NDPL government, all the transitional administrations, you had the opportunity at the time to project this into your policy-making process as an advisor to these institutions.
Thank you. The theory of organizations, for those who are students of organizations, you find that structure influences behavior. If you set up a corporation and define that corporation in terms of rules and regulations, people who are in that organization follow those rules. In our government, the unitary system defines the activities of individuals in government. Now, my experience from the PRC detected this document. We need a fundamental change in our country. For example, I'll give you one example. On the day of the coup d'etat, the next day I was in the United States, it is said that the president of the Central Bank of Liberia, when they gathered behind the executive mansion, took $200,000 to President Doe, or head of state Doe. And he said, what am I to do with this? He said, you are the president now. Yeah, that's the way it is done. You see, structure, the way things have done, defines the activities of the individual. This is why we presented. If you go through it, you will find the instances that are responsible for the conditions that we have in Liberia today. We outline them point by point. We argue that until we devise a method that will address the issues that are prevalent in our society, we will continue to have the problems that we have today. So this is why it's based on my experience from the PRC.
Thank you very
in
much.
1998.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Hearing Officer, kindly,
Huh?
no, I'm talking to the hearing officer, kindly give me the file that was
Yeah.
presented by the witness. Okay, just let me look at it and I would
You don't
pass
have
it
this?
right back to him before the
No,
audience.
you can take it. I have what I want.
Mr. Witness, I want to say thank you very much for coming and giving your testimony, giving your advice, and telling us what you observed or what you heard or what you read, and also presenting to us these documents which will be documents that you participated in. You started off by saying that you were not an actor onto the warring factions, but you did admit that you were an advisor. These documents, as I see, you talk about the EULA statement, and you consider yourself then and those there to be side ring watchers, which will be considered this document to be, you all had a vision, the visionaries. This other document here showed that when you were advisor, or the one that you got before you guys not in there, advisor to the social, political, and economic administration of Liberia at that time. So you were also an actor. Now, as you sit and telling us, sit before us now that you're in the United States and giving us all this, advising us for now and teaching us.
I'm not teaching
Yes,
you. I can't teach
we
you.
could, yes, you're teaching us all these because we'll take this. We can consider you almost to be a retired commentator, teacher, or explaining now why those things happen.
Yes.
So we do now, you're old man, we could, in terms of politics, dreaming, having a vision, acting, and now a dreamer. We thank you very much for playing your part, because from 31 years now up to date, when you started in 1977 as Vice President of EULA, and up to today's date, June 12, 2008, being a teacher, dreamer, and commentator, that's been 31 years, but you've been actively involved in politics for 2 decades, 20 years, from 1997,
30.
yeah, 31 years.
30 years.
Okay. Now, before going into this, I would like to make 2 comments, comment on 2 things, recent happenings. You talk about that the TRC is divided,
Yeah.
and because of what you've read, because of the division, it seems as though the TRC will be a toothless bulldog. I want to assure you, in this public manner, and those who feel that way, that one, the TRC not divided on the issue on the mandate for which they took the oath to deliver to the Liberian people. Because the TRC, as it is now, have gone beyond all other TRCs that have been established, and they've been for 29 now. Because not only have we just stayed in Liberia, but we've reached out to the diaspora. There were 9 commissioners, 1 retired Bishop Kula in Nigeria, and there are 8 commissioners. And as you see, we are 8 commissioners here, and we are doing the work of the TRC under this mandate. So to those who feel there's a division, that division does not go to the extent of our work, because we represent a cross-section of the Liberian people. We were not put here by ourselves, we were recommended and went through a panel of experts. You talk about conflict. There must be conflict for there to be a conflict resolution. So we thank you all for taking note of that, And as I say now, that's why I'm saying your teacher, and we will take note of your teachings and your reprimand to us. Secondly, the issue of those in Liberia, political leaders, who said they would not come to the TRC. Some are rumors, and you know, cheap is talk, and also writing now is talk, because what you write, people will read more. I want to say to you that the TRC has a mandate, and under that they have a mechanism under which if people don't want to come, we invite you, we can initiate that. Through the, we have a magistrate, and everything we do, we don't do it in public, because even since we've been here, we've been having in-camera hearings. So what we talk here inside that the public is not known. I want you to know that our magistrate have already been using his subpoena power. And contrary to what you hear from the President of the Republic of Liberia, Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she said she will come to the TRC. She said it to our hearings on the opening day of hearings. She was present. And she said she would come to the TRC if called upon, and not only that, she urged all members of the government, the legislature, the cabinet, and every other Liberian to come to the TRC. And she promised to her government to support the TRC. A majority of our money comes from the government. So those who will not come, we've always been saying we invite you to come. But if you do not come, we will stretch out our arms to get you. And believe me or not, we are not toothless bulldogs. Thank you. And thanks for, we will look at these historical documents. And as I say, from the visionaries, the actors, to the teachers, explanators, and dreamers. And we will assess, and they will become part of history. We will determine with our recommendations, and history, our posterity unborn, will also judge those who had a part to play in our history. Thank you. Yes?
I cited the source of this condition that you described. I said on the basis of press reports. Mm-hmm. And it would be nice for us in the diaspora to get a decisive press response by the Commission. Mm-hmm. It is said that President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf will write a memoir. And of course, Prince Johnson, I have the documents in my briefcase. Prince Johnson said over his dead body, until they go bring Doe, and the Doe is dead, he's not going to testify. Now, just 1 second, please. The reason I say that, I believe in the process of the TRC, because I think national reconciliation for security, unity, is very well necessary in our country today, given the ethnic tribal divisions that we have. So now, the average person in the street says, hey, you know, Prince Johnson was a major actor in the tragedy. If he goes to the press and says, I'm not going there, then the people will say, well, wait a minute. What is this? And you have that political, legal muscle of Isabino.
Yeah.
Like you said. So I understand what you say. I believe in what you're doing. And I would love to see that, why would somebody sitting writing a paper? I would submit myself willingly. I do not have to wait until I'm called. If you are here, I will come to testify if you want to. And those people who are accused of human rights violations in our country, people who are responsible for the death and destruction in our country, for thousands of Liberians in this country today and elsewhere, they should come and say something. Talk about confession, forgive, if not forget. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just saying so the commission will know what we here are thinking. But I'm not accusing the commission of anything.
No, we just explaining, and yes,
That's all.
Also, yes, thank you, because what you are observing, many others too, but we're just explaining what there's a time now. The witnesses, mostly some alleged perpetrators come on their own, and we also have a time, we have a right way to subpoena them, and I also want